I'm filming this while I am in quite the situation with my family. I honestly, I thought about like, do I record this episode or do I not? But I'm like, no, this is what we do here. And today we are talking about navigating family relationships. But of course, we're here on the You and Me and Jesus podcast. That means we're doing it as best as we can, God's way, the kingdom way. And today I want to talk about basically what's happening with me right now.
Welcome to the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. On this podcast, I share all about my experiences growing up with God, growing into the calling that God has had on my life, and experiencing the supernatural. When you're listening to this, you're going to hear from me as well as many of my friends talk about all the experiences we have with God. Some of the things you're going to hear are going to make you go, what? I cannot believe that happened. Other things are going to make you cry, and some things are just going to make you laugh. But you're going to hear all about how we experience God. The goal of this podcast is to help you hear God clearer, get closer to God, and experience all of the supernatural. And so thank you so much for listening to the You, Me, and Jesus podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast, where we talk about all things you, me, and Jesus, because we are here as Christians on earth learning to navigate this life with God, with Jesus, and with the Holy Spirit. And today's topic, as I said in the intro, is talking about navigating family relationships, okay? And, I wrote this topic before last week happened. Okay. And so I had this moment where I said, should I choose a different title so that I don't talk about this on the podcast, or do I just continue going? And because I am very honest and transparent, I'm like, we're going to talk about it on the podcast, not giving all the specifics or whatever, but what have you. So when I think about navigating your family relationships, there's a lot of different dynamics in your family. There's a lot of things that has happened, when you were a child, being raised and all that type of stuff, you now being adult, and then however everyone is now based upon whatever. Nobody is the same. Everybody's got their different perspectives and all this stuff. And that's the world. Like, that is just the world, and it is what it is in the world. But when we are talking about navigating this with family, these are your blood relatives, but technically these are supposed to be the closest people to you. I know that, here in the world, it's like ride or die. I'm not dying for anybody, but it's like ride or die. It's like family over everything. And I get it. Like, I 100% get it. I love when I see families swarm in for one another, families supporting one another, families living together, them being able to navigate all of that in whatever way they do it. I'm like, that's beautiful. And I'm also reminded that everybody has different dynamics, including myself. And I'll just tell you what is happening currently in my life. Okay. So I am the youngest of 4 girls. I'm 42. So there's 42, 44, 46, 48. Everybody's got that 2-year apart type thing. And it's all girls. And my mom was a single mom, and there's lots of interesting things that went on in our childhood. Lots of moving, lots of unstableness, lots of chaos, and all the type of stuff that we didn't really realize was chaos. We just knew we were just always moving. That's just what we knew. And we had it was definitely unstable. We didn't really have mother figures. We had our mom was there, but we really didn't have a mother figure. We really didn't have a father figure. Like, no one was really telling us what was right, what was wrong, how to be a lady, hygiene, how to cook, how to think, how to heal, how to manage our emotions, regulate our emotions. Just like, we weren't receiving any of that type of stuff. I think my mom did the best she could for whatever her circumstance was, but that's just what is truth. And so there's so many different dynamics of what happened, sisters being parents, and there's mental instability and so many different facets and all that type of stuff, to where fast forward, here we are all in our 40s and we're not close, like, at all. Right. And for all these years of us like knowing that this happened with this person is how they feel, and this happened with me, this is how I feel, and yada, yada, yada. There's just all this stuff. And there's never just really been like a come to Jesus meeting where each person is like putting it out on the table, or like a psychologist is listening to a person and validating that person while also teaching this person how to navigate X, Y, and Z. Like we've never done that. And so because of that, we typically have these moments where it's just like something big happens and then it has to be addressed or whatever. And so for me personally, as I've been on this journey, obviously I'm not perfect, going to therapy, doing the trauma therapy, all the deliverance and all that stuff, and just trying to figure out life, trying to teach myself in my 30s about hygiene, like just things that you would say, what? I'm just saying, just teaching myself all these different things and navigating and like healing the parts that were unhealed, like reparenting myself and not really realizing that I wasn't parented, and like coming to terms with, oh, I wasn't really parented in that way, and like just navigating all that. So to then be connected with my sisters and trying to learn who they are as they are, and also trying to allow them to learn me as I am, so we can navigate who each other are today. And for me, I have found it extremely challenging. And one of the reasons why I find it extremely challenging is that not just because of them, but this is like what I've learned through therapy, is that this is a normal thing for most people, that most people are not self-aware. They're not really aware of how they are, what they're doing, how their impacts this, and this, or how to think outside of like what is happening with them. Not necessarily selfishness, but just how to think outside of like, this is your current circumstance. How do I think about the whole versus just the one, right? And so I have found myself, like I do with a lot of people that I meet, where it's like they talk, I listen. Like they just dish and then they pull for what they can get, and they never try to figure out what is happening with me, right? And I've had that for like a large portion of my life, in family and in relationships in general. And one of the things that I, of course, with is that if people are not self-aware, that they can't even see what's going on. If they're not emotionally intelligent and like can see the bigger picture, and not just the bullseye, then it's hard to like really do all that. So I have found myself trying to have these conversations with all members of my family, and just trying to navigate what is going on, and just kind of hitting a brick wall. Like sometimes it was seen, we penetrate it, and then when you get to the other side, you're like, oh, there's another wall there. You know, it's a worthwhile wall to go on, but it's still a wall there. To where recently I just kind of had this moment where I just said, something is not happening that I think is happening. And for me, what was not happening was, and I say this all the time, especially because I run a business and I'm online and people see me posting about doing this, this, and this. And so oftentimes people associate this one post or these 5 posts with perfection. That because I said this, this, and this, or because I showed this, this, and this, that everything else is perfect. And oftentimes what I find with my family and people in general is that they can't associate with the fact that there is this and this, that both of these exist, the good and the not so good exist, and that it is healthy to check in on a person to see how they're doing, period. Not just to talk about this, but to really check on a person, period. It's like, for example, you guys know I had that huge surgery in November, and I did not have the expectation of my family to call me all the time, to text me all the time. I had hope or desire that they would, but I didn't expect it because they never do. But it was more disappointing to experience like the hardest thing I've ever gone through, like surgery, to just not see a consistent, like, just check, you know, like just a text message, you know, and then to encounter all of these strangers knocking on my door every day, caring for me, you know, calling, texting, just strangers, you know. And so I personally was like, okay, I just have to just chalk it up to what it is, until a member of my family decided I had to have a surgery, like a month after. And the person knew I was just right off the surgery table that day. I received a text that day that was insensitive, and I was just like, okay, this is crazy. So fast forward, I found myself in this moment in time where I said, okay, what do I want to have happen? I want a close relationship with my family. What needs to happen in order for me to have a close relationship with my family? I need my family to want to have a close relationship with me that looks like emotional intelligence, it looks like empathy, that looks like self-awareness. Because if we are together and all we're talking about is you, and you don't have any idea about me, what is happening with me, there's no empathy towards me, there's no really trying to dig into me and my life versus your social media, then we don't really have a relationship. And so I just kind of been trying to have all these conversations with members of my family for a while, and it just kept hitting that wall. And so then last week I just had a moment where I was just like, personally, I felt like I couldn't take it anymore, like all the mass text messages and like a private group chat that they had started, and I was just like, this isn't healthy for me, because I feel even more unseen than ever, because here we are in this space. I just had this surgery and no one has asked how I'm doing. And I was like, oh, I think they're looking at me like the person on the internet, not as a sister who is human, who's aging and all that stuff, And so I just kind of had the moment where I was just like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. This is hurting me more than it's helping me to see all these messages coming in here, and there's not one that asks, how am I doing, when I just had surgery. And of course they were not happy. One of them just kind of went, but that's normal. And I just had this moment where I just said, well, I've got to choose what I'm going to do. I've got to choose what's going to be my heart. And what I chose was basically to kind of go no contact with all of them for a period of time. And hear me when I say this. The whole goal of that is not manipulation. It's not control. The whole goal of that is that here you've got a family, and this is yours included and other people's. And we have to become very aware of our needs. We have to become very aware of the people that have access to us and the way that they access us and the way they communicate and treat us when they have access to us, right? There's a book called Boundaries. I think it's by Stephen Cloud, Boundaries. And so it's like, it's not about keeping people out. It's about like, here I am. Here's the key to the door. You have to use this door to get in. You can't come in this way or this way. You are 100% welcome into this room with this key at that door, right? And that is our responsibility to know what that looks like. And then we have to communicate that to people, to family. And if people decide, I don't want that key to that door, I want to come in this way or this way, then you have to make a healthy decision of what does this look like for you and the relationship with that person. This includes kingdom. Okay, it includes your pastor. It includes ministries at church. It includes your worship leader. It includes people that are asking you to do. It includes all of that. You have to go, okay, here is me. Here is my life. Here is the relationship I want to have with this person, these people. And here is what's best for me. Not what's best for them or for the group, but what is best for me. So I had someone who was invited to a big family gathering, and this person is of age, 40-something years old, and this person was paying a significant amount of money to stay at Airbnb like everybody else, and this person was given a futon, like a small, like a cot or something like that, and she was like, I am not coming. And they were like, what do you mean? She was like, well, I live down the street. If I had a bed, I would stay. Why am I going to come and spend X amount of dollars to sleep on a cot when my bed is down the street for free? And they were not happy with that. And it was because something in them said it's okay to treat this grown woman, to charge this grown woman the same amount of money where she doesn't get a room, where she just gets a cot in the living room. Something in them said this is okay. And it was her responsibility to communicate what works for her and what doesn't. And she did. So for me, when I'm talking to you and about my family situation is we can love everybody. You can love everybody. They can love you. But what has to happen is that we have to learn what is it that we want to experience with these members of our family, and how do we communicate that to them, and how do we give them the opportunity to come in and be in whatever way that looks like. You know, I was talking to someone recently whose mom just berates them all the time. And I said, well, why do you let her? And I'm like, no, just because she birthed you doesn't mean you get to have to let her hurt you every time she texts or calls or leaves you a voicemail. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. She birthed you, yes, but she is making a decision to not be kind to you. So it is your responsibility to determine, am I okay with this? And if I am not, you get to communicate what you are not okay with and what you are okay with. And if that person chooses not to go that route, you've got to make a decision on what you're going to do with that relationship now, in the future, or forever, whatever that looks like. So for me, my thing was, okay, I have not talked to them in a while ago, and it brought me peace. And then they kind of figured some stuff out. And I was like, and now where am I now? I'm like, I'm in a hard season. You know, I just went through surgery. I'm still healing externally and internally. Hormones, all the things, all still healing. You know, I'm getting ready to uproot my life and move to Houston on assignment from God, which is in and of itself my business and all the other things that I have been having going on, just that I don't necessarily talk about online. And I'm like, this is already hard that I have to deal with. They are not trying to help me with any of this hard, and that's okay. But if they're also adding hard to my life, I can't do that. Because I can't navigate this, which is I have to do this because I have to heal. I have to move. It's like these are have tos. These I don't have to. So I get to choose, what does this look like? And I get to tell them X, Y, and Z. And so because of our many conversations, I just say, I just don't have it. No, and I bid you adieu. That doesn't mean I'm going to not talk to them forever. It just means that in this season of time, when things are hard, when I'm already doing all the work, spending all this money on therapy, trying to heal, if you're constantly, it's like, if I'm allowing that is my fault. If you're allowing that is your fault. I don't want that to sound mean when I say that, but that is the truth. Like, if we are allowing people to be and do things or whatever that we don't agree with or we don't desire, then that is definitely on us. And we have to make a conscious decision about what we do about that. So my highest recommendation is talk to your family members. If you are navigating and there are crazy things that are going on, you've got to figure out how to have conversations with each individual person. So like my Uncle Tony, I love my Uncle Tony, but he's on drugs for pretty much my entire life. And when everything went down with my grandma, I was just going for a visit to see my grandma. And when I got there, she was not doing well. I got convinced her to go to the hospital. She died a couple days later. But while she was still okay, the family started calling members of the family, like my Uncle Tony. And then so he starts going crazy about me. Why didn't I call him? Why didn't I tell him? And just going crazy on me. And I'm like, I don't even live here. I live in California. I came here for vacation. Why are you not mad at everybody that lives here? It was like all like whatever me. And I was like, this is wild. And then just kind of watching me not be defended by other people was just kind of like, this is kind of wild. And so he was messaging me crazy stuff on Facebook. And I was just like, hey, if you feel guilty about with your mom dying, that's on you, because you're the one on drugs and you're the one not coming to see her. I don't live here and that's not my mom. And then I blocked him because it was hurting me. I was already in pain from my grandma passing and me watching her when I came into the room, and I'm like, what is going on there? Why don't y'all, but so that was hard, and then once I got home from the funeral, it was even harder just how everybody was. And I was just like, I don't have me to offer to you guys right now. You got to take care of you. I got to take care of me. I don't have me to offer, And so right before my uncle passed away, I called and I could hear him in the background. He was not doing well, but I was trying to like just talk and get closure or whatever, because I love my Uncle Tony, but it wasn't healthy for me to just navigate this hard season with my grandma dying, plus my life in itself, and then everything else. I was just like, it was just too hard. And so when I talk about me and my relationship with my family, it's really, really, really important that you assess what is actually happening in your family. What is happening with you? How are you being treated? How are you treating them? You know, are you treating them the way God would want you to? Like, what does that look like? I'm not saying that the Bible says like, go no contact with people or block people. I'm not saying the Bible says that. What I am saying is that God is a God of peace. God is a God of order. And he wants us to talk to people. He wants us to try to reconcile relationships with people. And if all that's not working, then you've got to do something until people are ready to talk, right? Like you cannot make two people talk that don't want to talk. You cannot make two people reconcile that do not want to reconcile, right? Everybody has to get to a place where they want to listen, where they want to listen more than they want to be heard. You know what I mean? That's like I think my sister reached out to my best friend and was just asking her about me. And then the more we kept reading the conversation, we realized we're like, she doesn't want to listen. She wanted to be heard. And so she said, I just wanted to share my side of the story. And my best friend was like, okay, you know, but you could, in that moment, she wasn't trying to understand what was happening with me. She just wanted to be heard by my best friend, hoping that she would tell me. And I can appreciate that. But with my sister, I love her. I want to spend time with her. I want to get to know who she is. I want her to get to know me, but it has to be mutual, right? So it's like, if you're hurting, I'm going to check and make sure you're okay multiple times, you know? And if I am hurting, which I was, I would desire for you to check on me multiple times, because it takes seconds to send someone a text message. It doesn't take hours, or it doesn't take minutes to send someone a text message. And so it's kind of like, I know this is real personal as I'm sharing this with you guys, but I really just want you to see navigating family, navigating relationships, that you have to get as healthy as you can so you can see, process, navigate all the things, because the healthier you are, the healthier you can see, the healthier you can respond, and then you can act in accordance with health, and then you can pray from that level of health for your family members. Like me, I'm praying for my family members because I want a relationship with them, but I don't want it on a relationship just on their terms. I want it because we want to get to know each other. We want to love each other and support each other. And all of us feel seen and heard and not just dumped on, for lack of better words. Okay. So I know this was personal, but I hope that this helped you in any kind of way. If it did, please let me know here inside of the chat. If you're on the podcast, please come on Instagram and tell me that you enjoyed the episode. I would love to know. You can find me at Kia Kelly on Instagram. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching.
Thanks for listening to the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. I'm so honored and thankful that you have chosen to listen to this with us. What we would love more than anything next is for you to write a review. When you write a review on iTunes or Spotify, it actually helps the podcast be found by more people. So if you can do us a huge favor and give us 5 stars and write a review, and feel free to tell us what you loved about the episode. Thank you for being here. We're praying for you. We love you, and we pray the best for you and your life.